Alright guys, bienvenue dans le dernier épisode de Candace Owens, donc ce dernier épisode où elle va nous parler des nouvelles révélations, revenir je pense sur l'interview avec Xavier Poussard. Alors je vous l'ai pas encore faite sur YouTube, l'interview de Xavier Poussard, j'ai été en famille en vacances, donc là ils sont partis, je vais rattraper le temps perdu, donc je vais vous mettre en priorité cette vidéo en premier parce que c'est la dernière, elle a eu lieu hier soir, donc c'est tout frais. Bien sûr, vous aurez les sous-titres YouTube parce qu'il n'y a pas de vidéo sous-titrée directement en français qui a été mis en ligne. Et honnêtement, sur des vidéos d'1 heure, c'est quand même très compliqué de trouver des intelligences artificielles pour vous le faire. Donc, mais bon, avec les sous-titres YouTube, et puis je vais arrêter souvent pour en parler, on va s'en sortir. Ce que je vais faire déjà, c'est que je vais monter mon petit rond là. Donc on en a pour, je sais pas, moi je l'ai pas vu l'interview, donc je vais la découvrir en même temps que vous. Il y a 1h02, je pense qu'à mon avis il doit y avoir des questions-réponses à la fin, donc ça va durer un petit peu plus de 50 minutes. Donc let's go, on est parti. On est parti.
Right, you guys, the internet is on fire. Today we jump back into our conclusive episode on the Becoming Brigitte series because I know there are so many lingering questions. Is Brigitte Macron the First Lady of France, Emmanuel Macron's biological father? We're hearing that a lot. Where is the real Brigitte Trogneux? Like I said.
Ouh, donc elle lance le truc direct. La question, c'est de savoir si aujourd'hui Brigitte Macron serait le père biologique d'Emmanuel Macron. Donc elle commence fort, Candace Owens. Donc elle y va dès le début là. Donc je pense que on va avoir une sorte d'arbre généalogique qui va tomber. Affaire à suivre. Ça a l'air intéressant tout ça.
A lot of people have theories, and I think today we can allow ourselves to roam and wonder these sorts of questions. I see that there are TikTokers that are getting their accounts hit and banned for discussing the matter, so welcome back to Becoming Brigitte.
Moi, pour l'instant, on m'a censuré une vidéo pour des informations sur TikTok, pas plus, donc à voir.
I think it's safe to say that my interview with journalist Xavier Poussard completely melted the internet. It definitely melted our website at CandaceOwens.com. There were many people who had not previously engaged in the series entirely, but they saw the now infamous side-by-side of the photo of a young Jean Michel when he was 18 years old, taken at...
Bon, pour ceux qui n'ont pas suivi, nous avons Jean Michel Trogneux à l'âge de 18 ans, alias peut-être Brigitte Macron. Excusez-moi, mais cette photo, elle a buzzé de fou sur Internet. On peut avoir des ressemblances avec ses frères, avec ses sœurs. Le problème, c'est qu'il y a des signes, vous voyez là au niveau de la bouche, etc., qui trompent pas, quoi. Tu peux tout refaire sur une tête, à part quelques signes distinctifs qui font que tu ressembleras toujours à la personne que tu étais avant, et cette photo, elle est quand même hyper suspecte. Alors dites-moi en commentaire ce que vous en pensez. Pensez à vous abonner à la chaîne s'il vous plaît, si vous n'êtes pas abonné, et lâchez un like, parce que ça aide tout simplement le travail. Merci.
Engineering school next to the current French First Lady, Brigitte Macron, and they were just kind of jolted into the understanding that something was very wrong. Like, yes, you can be an almost identical twin with your brother who you're supposed to have 7 or 8 years apart from, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The photographic evidence became instantly, I think, undeniable for a lot of people. And so now we have just a lot of people that are going backwards and diving in from the very beginning, as they should. I am recommending do not start at that interview and then jump into this episode. We have covered so much. One can only come to understand how such a potential identity swap could be feasible if you begin to map out the supporting cast of characters. That's why we took our time here, because you have to understand who is around these people, what is their network, how much power would it take if you did want to create identities or destroy identities. And we've arrived there. We have finally arrived there. So first and foremost, just bringing this back up, let's take again a look at Emmanuel's family tree. And
elle a dit quelque chose de très important. Si vous n'avez pas vu les épisodes précédents, s'il vous plaît, allez les voir avant de regarder cet épisode-là, parce que sinon vous n'allez rien comprendre. D'accord, là on a l'arbre généalogique d'Emmanuel Macron, donc avec Françoise Noguès, sa mère, Jean-Michel Macron, son père. Un était, je crois, une ou l'autre est pédiatre, bref, écoutez, et la grand-mère là-haut. Oui, voilà, il y a un pédiatre, un psychiatre, et la grand-mère qui a un rôle assez sombre dans l'affaire.
Of course, we have learned, and I'm going to reinforce here, that he is not, at least doesn't appear that he was close to who are supposed to be his biological parents or his biological siblings, at least by any stretch of an understanding of his own autobiography, right? Didn't write about them, just a couple of sentences, but he had so much to say about Brigitte's family, and really only a lot to say in terms of his biological family about his grandmother. And I think most of us suspect, and I can say I most certainly do, that mom and dad, they're not actually his mom and dad. That's how I just feel about the circumstance in terms of him describing, well, it was my grandmother that first taught me how to ride a bike. And I also find it to be suspicious. Again, this is our last episode, so we can start to theorize a bit. I feel incredibly suspicious about the fact that they're both doctors, that they were doctors, that dad's a pediatrician, and your mom, who we thought or didn't understand why she was involved with the Social Security office, actually was involved in helping transgendered people secure new identities. That doesn't make us feel good about that nebula that is around them. Then, of course, like I said, the curious case of his grandmother, who he affectionately calls Manette. We know that there are virtually no photos of her available. The person who essentially raised Emmanuel Macron, again, according to his own autobiography, we are given just 2 photographs of. Why? Do we even actually know if that was her name? She was allegedly also a teacher. Why is it so hard to get photographs that demonstrate his childhood? Was her name even actually Germaine Aribet Nogue? Did she have another name that she maybe potentially used? I'm taking you guys through my own process here. Why are we just getting these 2 photos? Like I said, while in the past we have stuck strictly to the facts, today we are going to permit ourselves a little more wiggle room. I hold the suspicion that many of the people have come to, I think, at the same exact understanding that it could be plausible that all of these people have multiple identities. If you've got somebody in the family that can destroy identities and create identities, why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? And I also think it's important to think about the time frame. It was a different world. You know, thinking about relatives that were growing up during World War I or World War II, we are talking about humans moving over national lines, nations changing, literally geographical changes that were happening, depending on who won wars or who lost wars, right? You had people who were hiding their true identities, sometimes out of a necessity, out of fear of persecution, right? You have to completely get IDs, change your identity, and hide in different countries. Well, we know for a fact that within this particular story, despite what we're being sold as the public.
Bon, comme d'hab, les sous-titres déconnent un brin. Ça, c'est un truc YouTube. Il va vraiment falloir qu'ils améliorent leur logiciel de sous-titrage, parce que c'est pas fou parfois. Donc là, on explique, Candace Owens explique qu'on vit dans un monde où tu peux changer d'identité un petit peu comme tu veux, et qu'elle estime peut-être que l'intégralité de la famille Macron a changé d'identité, même jusqu'à la grand-mère, dont on ne retrouve quasiment aucune photo, seulement 2, et elle ne comprend pas pourquoi. C'est quand même hallucinant. Parce que une fois, ça peut arriver, on peut se dire, ok, Brigitte, elle a pas de photo, parce que voilà, il n'y a pas eu de photo à l'époque, blablabla. La grand-mère, pareil. Emmanuel Macron, pareil. En fait, il y en a pas un qui a des photos. C'est quand même fantastique. Jean Michel Trogneux, il n'y a pas de photo. C'est hallucinant. Hallucinant.
At least one side of the family changed their names, or had one member who changed their names, and it's kind of strange that the public was sold this story about the Trogneux without somebody just adding that actually we made up this guy's name. Let's get into that Trogneux family, right? The Brigitte Trogneux, where did that family come from before they settled in Amiens and became sort of like a mafia? Because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like the Trogneux family operates like a mafia to this day. They're supposed to be a family of chocolatiers. They have this supposed to be the sweet origin story. And this is actually the most recent publication discussing their family story that I could find in the local newspaper in Amiens. This was published in 1990, I think it was 1991, it might be 1993. And this was to announce the birth of another Trogneux family member. And it's showing you the lineage of the fathers of the chocolatier.
Vous aurez bien suivi, hein, tout ce que vous voyez, c'est la famille Trogneux. D'accord, Trogneux, Trogneux. Je fais des mix avec Candace Owens, donc c'est toute la famille Trogneux que vous voyez en bas. Donc voilà, continuons. Qu'elle estime elle être une mafia.
Right. So at first you have an 1852 John Baptiste. He was leading the shop. Then you have Jean. Then you have Jean.
Ils s'appellent tous Jean au passage.
Then you have John Alexander. And I'm showing you this because I want you to understand all of the men in the Trogneux family have the same first name. Jean Trogneux. That is significant. It is significant also because it complicates matters, okay? So if they say Jean Trogneux is alive and well, you're not really getting anything there, right? Is it cousin, brother, uncle, nephew? Every male in the Trogneux family has the name Jean Trogneux. And most of them, by the way, to be clear, have more than one middle name, okay? So first and foremost, just going back to that publication, if we can get that back up, that first original Trogneux, Jean Baptiste, yeah, that was a lie. His name wasn't actually Jean Baptiste. The original Jean that settled in Amiens and opened this chocolatier shop, his real name was actually Marc Etienne Xavier Trogneux. So that's just a part of the legacy that they just made up. And I'm not sure what the reason or the purpose of that lie is. Again, we know for a fact his name was Marc Etienne. We were able to secure the birth certificate. This is not disputed amongst genealogists. So it's just a question of why even start with a small lie about your family's legacy? Is it because you wanted to show lineage? Or was a conscious decision made for one reason or another that's unbeknownst to the public to tell that lie? Is it really about just making things more confusing? Did you make a decision that we're going to call everybody in the family Jean? For what reason would that be? Why would you make that decision? Even, by the way, to be clear, the women in the family also have male middle names. So we're going to bring up that family photo again, the now infamous family photo. We are told, by the way, that that's Brigitte in her mother's lap. It looks nothing like Brigitte, but we're just going to go with that. This photo, again, to remind you, was introduced to the public by Mimi Marchand, who we do not trust to save our lives.
C'est très important quand même de se souvenir. Cette photo a été présentée au public par Mimi Marchand. D'accord, Mimi Marchand qui était la responsable de presse de Brigitte Macron et d'Emmanuel Macron. C'est celle qui a vendu cette histoire comme une grande romance, qui a écrit un storytelling complètement faux autour de Brigitte et d'Emmanuel Macron. Donc quand on voit cette photo à droite avec présentant Brigitte Macron comme la petite fille assise sur les genoux de sa mère, méfiance, parce que cette photo est clairement une photo qui a été présentée par quelqu'un qui a fait une propagande et une manipulation de presse. Donc on lui fait absolument pas confiance, comme dit Candace Owens.
But you can see Brigitte's middle name, her full name is actually Brigitte Marie Claude Trogneux. Okay? Brigitte Marie Claude Trogneux, which is interesting, by the way, to be clear, because her dad, as you can see, doesn't have Claude in his name. So she's taking on Claude Trogneux for what reason? Her dad is John George Trogneux. He does have a son, as you can see right above there in this photo, a son who has Marie in his name as well. His name is John Claude Marie Joseph Trogneux. That's a lot of names. You don't typically see this in families outside of the aristocracy, right? Outside of the aristocracy, where you'll see 20 names going back to show their lineage. John Claude Marie Joseph, Brigitte Claude Trogneux. And then, of course, we have our guy, Jean Michel Henry Trogneux, to the far left. And then, just to add more confusion, the people in the family seem to marry people that have the same names as their siblings, okay? So this is not too relevant for you to remember. You can keep that photo up because I just want to keep going through it. But Monique Trogneux, there on the right, she married someone with the same first name as her brother. So she married someone named Jean-Claude, okay? Bit confusing. And then Jean-Claude, the brother up top there, married someone with the same name as his sister, Brigitte. He married someone named Brigitte Poisson, so she then became Brigitte Trogneux. It's just very convenient and very confusing, and this is why you can just sort of go down this rabbit hole, and it makes you wonder, as I have wondered, is this confusion intentional? because if you have all these names and everyone's kind of got the same name, my brain just goes, it would make it very easy for you to move throughout the family and share identifications, right? To go in and say, I just want an ID that says Claude Joseph. Oh, no, that is my name. I have a lot of names, but I'm actually Claude Joseph. And so maybe now I'm going as Claude Joseph. Again, I'm speculating here, but to be clear, this image in general is not one that I'm comfortable with because, as I mentioned, we do not trust Best Image because we do not trust Mimi Marchand. And the first time that this image was ever presented to the public, it was given to the public, to the documentary filmmaker who said that she felt like she was interviewing with the police when she was trying. Her name was Virginie Lindhart. Remember her? She did this documentary, Brigitte Macron, a French novel. And she said she had never been questioned.
Je vous laisse défiler pour l'instant parce que bon, jusque-là, il n'y a pas non plus d'informations très intéressantes. Alors les histoires de noms, de prénoms et tout, honnêtement, c'était une famille d'aristocrates, rien de surprenant. En plus, j'ai un peu du mal à cerner, par exemple, si c'est pas leur deuxième et leur troisième prénom comme nous avons sur nos cartes d'identité. Parce que par exemple, Anne-Marie Gisèle Marguerite Trogneux, moi, je suis présenté sur mon passeport comme Dylan machin. J'ai pas donné mes trois prénoms, mais j'ai trois prénoms avec mon nom de famille. Et je vais être présenté de la même façon. Hein. Il y a même des fois, j'arrive à l'aéroport, ils m'appellent Dylan machin avec mon nom de famille. Donc est-ce que ça correspond à ça? J'en sais rien, mais si c'est des deuxièmes et des troisièmes prénoms, c'est quand même assez courant en France. Je viens d'une famille de pauvres et j'ai trois prénoms. Je sais pas, rien d'extraordinaire. Jusque-là, rien de bien intéressant.
Like that. She was only allowed to speak to certain people, given very few photos, and those photos all had to go through Mimi Marchand's Best Image. So she's handing out these images. And her history, Mimi Marchand's, of being accused of forgery and extortion, I'm starting to wonder what exactly Best Image specializes in. That they had the exclusive on any photos from Brigitte's past and only produced a few. Do they specialize in Photoshop? Because there's one thing that some people on the internet have caught on, a couple of things really that jump out to me as odd about this photo. First and foremost, that girl on the far right, Monique Trogneux, okay? Look at her hands. That looks weird. What's going on there? It looks like a lot of fingers, maybe potentially too many fingers. Looks like 6 fingers, 3 of them of which are nubs. I mean, maybe she was throwing gang signs. Maybe
C'est quoi? C'est une main, ça? Bah écoutez, je sais pas. À moins que c'était une gamine qui avait des doigts en moins. Il paraîtrait qu'elle ait 3 doigts. Il en manquerait 2. Ouais, je sais pas. Ou c'est peut-être un crabe. Qui sait, on sait pas.
She's in a gang. I don't know, but that looks very weird to me. And the one thing that I do know about Photoshop is that people say it is incredibly hard to Photoshop hands. That's usually where people get caught Photoshopping when you see all these scandals. We knew Kim Kardashian Photoshopped it because of her hands. She's missing a hand. She's missing a finger. I don't know why that is. I don't work in that space, but it is incredibly hard to Photoshop hands and fingers. And then there's Monique's face in general. As soon as I saw it, after going through so much of Brigitte's history, I realized, and we can pull that photo up again, that Monique just looked familiar to me. I felt like I had seen that face before. I'm being told this is an older sister, but to be honest, she looks a lot like this photo. Okay? I was like, this photo looks very, very similar. These are...
Tu trouves qu'elles se ressemblent les deux là? Ouais, une fille qui sourit. Après, la photo de Brigitte est un petit peu trop floue. Dis-moi en commentaire.
To be 2 different people. It looks like, I don't know, how could this be 2 different people? And if you're wondering what that photo is on the left, that's a photo of Brigitte. Apparently, they dug up France 3, came across an old photo from 1989 of Brigitte Ozier. So this is Brigitte after marriage, Brigitte in the teacher phase. And I just find that face is just so familiar. But hey, siblings are familiar, right? Not a big deal. You can look exactly like your sister. And so I just said to myself, okay, well, let me just see some current pictures of Monique. Maybe they still...
Je vais vous demander quand même de prendre un peu de recul. Je vais vous montrer un truc qui est quand même assez incroyable dans ma famille. d'accord? Vous connaissez sûrement mon neveu Hugo, ok? Et il y a un truc de fou avec mon neveu Hugo, c'est qu'il a exactement la même tronche que moi quand j'avais 8 ou 9 ans, d'accord? Même 6 ou 7 ans. Je suis en train de vous rechercher la photo, je vais vous la montrer, je l'ai là. Ça, je ne sais pas si vous allez bien voir, mais ça c'est moi, d'accord? Ça c'est moi quand j'avais genre, je sais pas, 6, 7 ou 8 ans, d'accord? Et je vais vous montrer Hugo, qui est exactement, alors c'est mon neveu, hein, c'est pas mon fils, je vous promets, on n'est pas des consanguins dans la famille, on n'a rien fait entre frères et sœurs, parce que je vous vois venir. Et ce serait bien, c'est que je vous retrouve une photo de Hugo. Ce que je vais faire, c'est que je vais la chercher pendant que vous écoutez la suite, et je vais vous montrer une photo de Hugo avec sans ses lunettes et avec la même coupe de cheveux. Vous allez voir, vous allez être choqués. Alors, faites attention aux ressemblances comme ça, parce que moi, je ressemble de très 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 près à mon neveu. Et pourtant, ce n'est ni mon fils, ni plein d'histoires que Candace Owens pourrait nous expliquer. C'est juste, voilà, par rapport aux ressemblances, prenez un petit peu de recul aussi parfois.
Look like dead ringers for one another. And they're both alive today, so this shouldn't be hard to find photos of Monique. And actually, it was really hard to find photos of Monique, despite marrying a billionaire from Amiens, now a billionaire automobile family. Monique Trogneux marries this guy, again, not important for you to remember, named Jean-Claude Guidet, who owns like the largest automobile billionaire company in France. She just never took photos throughout her life besides that one. Can't find a wedding photo, nothing. And Xavier Pissard had warned me because I was texting him going, how is this possible? I mean, come on. How do you marry a billionaire? Marry someone who goes, and there's just no photos of you. And there's like one photo of her husband. I'm like, this can't be a thing. I understand privacy, but this is not a thing. And Xavier warns me, don't start down the rabbit holes because nothing makes sense. As soon as you start looking at the story, you realize nothing makes sense. And that's exactly what they want, essentially to drive you crazy, to confirm what should be very basic things. And for whatever reason, it's virtually impossible to do so. Despite the big names of these families, despite their proximity to power, it is virtually impossible to confirm anything. So I just want...
Regardez, je voulais juste refaire un petit aparté. Donc ça, c'est Hugo. D'accord? Donc là, il a, je crois, 10 ans. Ce qu'il faut que vous regardez bien, c'est la couleur au niveau du devant des cheveux, où il est roux sur le devant et châtain clair sur le derrière. Il a des reflets roux qui sont assez violents. Et dans ces cas-là, si on reprend ma photo à moi et qu'on avait une enquête de Candace Owens, par exemple, donc je vais vous reprendre la photo que je vous ai montrée tout à l'heure. Je vais la retrouver dans 2 secondes. Laissez-moi juste 2 secondes. Et vous allez voir que si au final, Candace Owens avait fait une enquête sur Didi, disant que Didi, c'est en fait Hugo, bah elle aurait pu trouver tous les traits de ressemblance. Parce que ça, c'est moi. D'accord ? Et bah regardez bien la couleur de cheveux de devant, et ben c'est exactement la même que Hugo. J'étais roux devant, vous le voyez bien là sur le côté, et châtain clair derrière avec en gros la même bouille que Hugo. Donc pour vous dire que les ressemblances, il faut faire très attention parce que pourtant ma sœur est mariée avec quelqu'un qui est pas de la famille, donc c'est mon beau-frère qui est d'une autre famille complètement, qui ne nous ressemble absolument pas, et pourtant le fils de ma sœur me ressemble comme 2 gouttes d'eau. Donc voilà, juste pour remettre un petit peu en perspective, parce que moi du coup dans ma famille il y a un cas qui est vraiment pour le coup assez étrange.
I left it alone. But there's one thing that I find that makes entirely no sense, and it's very strange, and I would very much like to invite the public to jump in on this incredible mystery, okay? So many of you had suspected that these families might all be related. Are the Oziers, the Trogneux, and the Macrons all just from the same family? Is there a chance that Brigitte Macron, some of you asked, is actually the father of Emmanuel Macron? Now, to be clear, I had never made that statement because I wanted to keep this series factual. and to pull away from my gut and to be like Xavier and to
Brigitte, papa d'Emmanuel.
And the things that we could confirm.
Affaire à voir. Affaire à
But there
suivre,
is
pardon.
obviously a lot going on here, a lot of evidence which suggests and points to the conclusion that the secret seems to be bigger than just having a transgendered wife, right? I mean, think back to the moments that we went over here of President Emmanuel Macron looking to his wife, Brigitte, for answers, basic answers about the biographical background of his family. Remember that scene we told you about when he was speaking to a politician and the politician was like, yo, your sister lives near here. Where does she live? And Emmanuel freezes up and looks to Brigitte. Why don't you know where your sister lives, Emmanuel? What's going on here? Why does it feel like there is this relationship where maybe you and Brigitte's, you're, I don't know, more than a wife for sure, to be sure. Why does it feel like Brigitte is sort of holding your hand? Why does it feel like you've always had your hand held by people that are more powerful than you? We definitely know and have confirmed, like we did in the last episode, that he had his hand held through his career by David the Rothschild, a family that is known and is on record as having practiced incest, okay? Why and how did Emmanuel Macron get so close to the Rothschilds? So close that his colleagues said this dude didn't even know what EBITDA meant, and yet he became the youngest managing partner. We understood that whatever it was, David Rothschild was holding his hand. You just couldn't question the power that he was being given, and we would laugh at him in meetings because he knew nothing about finance. Why did David Rothschild see to it that Emmanuel had his hand held? Vice is nice, but incest is best because it stays in the family. That is a direct quote from David de Rothschild's cousin, Natalie Reams Rothschild.
Ça, je voulais y revenir parce que, oui, on sait que dans la famille Rothschild, c'est éprouvé. L'inceste, c'est de famille et ils ne s'en cachent même pas. Mais vous savez que je pense, honnêtement, je sais pas si on s'éveille un petit peu du monde dans lequel on vit. Aujourd'hui, on nous a créé un monde qui nous entoure qui, je pense, est totalement faux. D'accord ? C'est-à-dire, vous savez, que l'inceste n'existe pas, que c'est un crime. Moi, je peux vous jurer, je suis persuadé qu'il y a de l'inceste dans énormément de familles, que ce soit en France ou dans le monde. Je suis persuadé que ça existe à gogo, que le cas Emmanuel Macron n'est absolument pas un cas isolé. Alors, est-ce que la famille Macron est une famille incestueuse, etc. Pour l'instant, on n'a pas les preuves. On peut se poser des questions. Mais encore une fois, je pense qu'il faut quand même se réveiller. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, on nous a raconté un monde de bisounours. Moi, je suis persuadé, et je vous le dis, à mon avis, des familles incestueuses, il y en a beaucoup plus que ce qu'on ne pense.
And in case you don't believe me, here is a clip of her saying that, by the way. Take a listen.
Et comme on faisait très souvent dans ces familles-là, vice is nice, but incest is best because it stays in the family.
She said it in English. She switched right over from French and said, this is what we say in our family. Vice is nice, but incest is best. Then there was a biography which was written by author Natalie Livingston, which was entitled The Women of Rothschild, which sort of revealed the maniacal desire that the Rothschild family had to maintain their fortune and their power in the world, a desire that was so maniacal that they practiced family incest. That is just undeniable. It is a fact, okay? And allegedly, they did this only until it was no longer socially acceptable. Right up until the late 19th century, you guys, right before we get into this Trogneux family. It's just amazing. Then they said, no more, no more. And what's interesting in this book is that Natalie Livingston documents that the reason for this is the original Rothschild, Mayor Amschel Rothschild's will. She says, quote, "It goes back to that will. In it, Mayor Amschel Rothschild said that nothing was more important than the family, and that meant at any cost. It was about preserving the unity of the bank and the integrity of the name. There's no question endogamy can't have been great. For example, there's an enormous amount of mental health issues that ran in the family."
Donc, vous savez, ce que j'étais en train de revérifier sur mon téléphone pendant qu'elle parlait, vous savez que la fille qui a parlé là juste avant, qui disait Vice is nice, incest is best, donc en parlant de l'inceste, c'est Nathalie Reims. Et j'avais eu un doute. Et Nathalie Reims, moi je connais très bien pour une simple raison, c'est que j'ai grandi dans l'univers de Mylène Farmer. D'accord, pour ceux qui connaissent un petit peu Mylène Farmer, moi j'ai grandi dedans depuis que je suis tout petit via ma famille, etc. Et que beaucoup de textes de Mylène Farmer sont inspirés justement de Nathalie Reims. Et c'est pour ça qu'on retrouve dans énormément de textes de Mylène Farmer le cas de l'inceste. Pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas le personnage, vous avez une chanson qui s'appelle Optimistique Moi, qui est clairement une chanson d'inceste, incestueuse. Je sais même plus quoi en penser du coup avec cette affaire de Candace Owens parce que le mythe va tomber. Elle va me donner envie d'aller enquêter un petit peu sur tous les textes de Mylène Farmer et sur ses inspirations parce que je sais que Nathalie Reims est une amie très proche de Mylène Farmer. Je le sais parce que j'ai grandi dans l'univers Mylène Farmer et je peux vous dire que je connais l'histoire par cœur et ça commence à m'inquiéter un petit peu cette affaire, je vous avoue. Là, ça me perturbe.
Believe there's not a correlation between endogamous matches and the issues of mental health. She then even discusses how that mentality within the family was so strong that they believe that any woman who stepped outside of the family in terms of who she married was cursed. Like, you are cursed because you did not marry your cousin, brother, uncle, whatever it is. So of course your brain wanders and you begin to think naturally in this story, why did David de Rothschild pluck up Macron? A guy who his colleagues said did not even know what épisode was, and yet David Rothschild moved to make him the youngest managing partner in the bank's history, okay? A bank's goal is to make profit. If you're a Rothschild, you care about making profit. Of course, if you care, especially in a maniacal sense, about making sure that your power is not lost in the world, the last thing you're going to do is pluck up some obscure guy who knows nothing and pull him through the ranks. You would only step outside of that obvious goal of wanting the bank to make money if there was something more important to money, and that would be power, right? And you would only do that if nepotism was going on, in my view. You're like, I'm pulling you through the ranks because you are related to me. And what matters more to me is that this bank and whatever it is that you do maintains within the family. You give someone a job not because they're qualified in that sense, but because they are your family member, right? How and why did David de Rothschild get so close to the Macron family of doctors and the Trogneux family of chocolatiers, right? How? What I can tell you, and again, we are now being purely speculative, is that my instinct, my personal instinct, has always been that if you were going to inbreed, a father-son relationship might actually be too close. I always felt that if it took place, we would be looking for an uncle. I feel like that's just like a standard story, like an uncle molesting a child feels like that's what my brain instantly does, what my brain instantly searches for. And it turns out, you guys, you are not going to believe me, but this pattern of similar names in every family and the family members also extends to the Macron family. Remember, there are no photos known to date of Emmanuel Macron with his parents growing up. That is insane, okay? We do know that his father, the person that they tell us is his father, his name is, of course, Jean Michel Macron. But there's another Jean Michel that we haven't mentioned yet, and he's perhaps the most important one. Uncle Jean Michel Noguès. Now let's add him to the Emmanuel family tree so you guys can get a visual here, okay? So his dad is Jean Michel. His mom is Francois Noguès. Well, Francois Noguès has a brother and had a brother. As you can see, he died in 2006, and his name was Jean Michel Noguès. Okay, that was of interest to me. Again, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I just want to identify who is who. Okay, he is the brother of Dr. Francis Noguès, the one who helps transgendered individuals get new IDs. Okay, amazing. And also she said, as we pointed out, that to her, Brigitte is not a daughter-in-law. Huh? What is she to you? Okay, let's just keep going down this rabbit hole. Well, the funny thing is that Emmanuel Macron did not follow the normal course of Catholicism, okay? He was not baptized as a child. In fact, his parents are not religious. He chose himself to be baptized at the age of 12 while he was at the La Providence school. So 2 years before he met the love of his life, Brigitte, he decided to make a decision, which is, I mean, that's amazing, right? I want to be baptized. And that's a weird thing. I think it's a remarkable thing, rather not a weird thing, a remarkable thing for a 12-year-old to do without parental guidance. But what's interesting in that what we haven't mentioned before is that he chose his uncle, Jean Michel, to be his godfather when he got baptized, okay? So baptisms are not supposed to be just like an act of vanity. I know today they've become them. I'm just going to pick a godfather or a godmother, and actually I have no faith in God, no faith in religion. I just think it would be cool or whatever. That's kind of the modern interpretation. Now, this has significant spiritual meaning. This person is supposed to be selected to be the person to guide you spiritually throughout the rest of your life. If something were to happen to you, this is a person that your parents would entrust. If something were to happen to your parents, this is supposed to be an individual that your parents would entrust to guide you spiritually for the rest of your life. Emmanuel Macron picked Jean Michel Noguès, his uncle, okay? I'm going to read this directly from Xavier Poussard's book. He wrote, quote, "A character in particular caught our attention. Emmanuel Macron's maternal uncle, Jean Michel Noguès."
Alors, pour ceux qui n'ont pas compris, en fait, Emmanuel Macron, jusqu'à l'âge de 12 ans, n'était pas baptisé, etc., car il n'était pas croyant, que ses parents ne sont pas croyants. Bon, jusque-là, moi, je le rejoins parce que je suis pareil. Mais a décidé à l'âge de 12 ans de se baptiser, de choisir comme parrain donc Jean-Michel Noguès, qui était son oncle. Donc Candace Owens nous explique que elle trouve ça vraiment louche parce que quand vous faites ça, c'est que vous êtes croyant, c'est que vous cherchez quelqu'un pour vous accompagner dans la voie de la spiritualité, de la religion, etc. Et qu'elle trouve le choix un petit peu bizarre. Encore une fois, il y a tellement de gens qui pratiquent aujourd'hui, qui se disent religieux alors qu'ils pratiquent pas vraiment. Enfin, moi, je connais 1 milliard de parrains aujourd'hui dans des enfants avec qui j'ai travaillé ou même dans mon entourage qui sont des parrains parce qu'ils sont parrains, tu vois. Ils sont pas là pour t'emmener à l'église, ils sont pas là. Voilà, là, elle parle vraiment d'un rôle de la religion qui est vraiment pratiqué à fond. Il y a énormément de familles aujourd'hui en France d'enfants qui ont des parrains. Parce qu'il faut un parrain, mais qui t'accompagne pas vraiment dans la religion. Je pense que c'est un petit peu comme Noël. À la base, c'est une fête religieuse, c'est devenu une fête commerciale. Pâques, c'est pareil, on n'est plus du tout dans la religion. Je pense qu'on vit quand même dans un temps où quand même la religion, elle est passée au second plan, tu vois. Donc ça, faut faire quand même un petit peu attention et pas tout prendre à chaque fois au pied de la lettre.
He was important. Emmanuel Macron chose him as his godfather when he decided to be baptized. The role of the godmother obviously fell to Manette. Born on December 25th, 1940 in Nièvre, and died on October 6, 2006 in Amiens, Jean-Michel Noguès was not some general practitioner. He was a prominent member of the board of the Faculty of Medicine of Amiens, as indicated by his obituary published by his colleagues in Le Courrier Picard. Remember, that's the newspaper in Amiens. He was also the chairman of Domus Medica, a non-trading real estate company, bringing together numerous of local healthcare professional organizations. Then he gets into, these are just French for the council department, blah, blah, blah. So this was an important man. He's a huge figure. So I thought, surely this man, Uncle Jean-Michel, must be photographed somewhere. Maybe a photo of him and Emmanuel at the baptism day. Maybe at La Providence. I don't know. Maybe on Emmanuel Macron's wedding day to Brigitte. Surely we can find a photo of this guy within medical circles. Okay? And you're not going to believe this, guys. And of course you're going to believe it. First and foremost, he died in 2006, the year before Emmanuel Macron got married to the love of his whole entire life, Brigitte. And regarding photos, of course, Xavier Poussard attempted to secure them. He specifically went to the archives of the Faculty of Medicine, where Uncle Jean Michel worked in Amiens and built up such a remarkable reputation for himself. And guess what? For whatever reason, they refused the request. So we don't have any photos of him. He died in 2006.
Encore un.
And we don't have any photos from him from when he was alive and was clearly very active in Emmanuel's life. And I don't know why Emmanuel didn't dedicate an entire chapter to him, his uncle, who he was so close to spiritually, his leader. You know, that's not something you just forget, right? The person who you believe is going to spiritually guide you throughout the rest of your life. You know, you're attending a Catholic school. You would know the significance of such a meeting. Why did you pick him? This means nothing. It could mean nothing, guys. It could mean everything, okay? It just, again, more than anything, demonstrates the unbelievably, unnecessarily secretive nature that surrounds this family. People exist on paper. They don't exist in photos, and then they disappear, right? You have to imagine, by the way, that Uncle Jean Michel would have been living in Amiens at the same time that Jean Michel Trogneux would have been living in Amiens throughout his marriage with the woman that he married. And I'm totally blanking on her name. Who did Jean Michel Trogneux marry? Veronique Drew. Yeah, they were all just in this little close community. You'd have to imagine that, right? At the same time, but who knows? They both just kind of disappear into thin air. Anyways, this is just what happens when you look into things. They debunk nothing, by the way. If you ask, hey, could you just clarify that? Can we get a photo here? Yeah, they instead wait for everyone who's investigating.
C'est un truc de fou hein, de trouver aucune photo nulle part de tout l'entourage d'Emmanuel Macron. C'est quand même absolument lunaire. Après, le problème dans tout ça, c'est que, bah voilà, là, on est quand même sur un documentaire Netflix, hein, quand vous regardez, on est vraiment sur des coïncidences, sur coïncidences, sur coïncidences, sur coïncidences, sur photos qui n'existent pas, lui qui existerait mais qui n'existe pas. On est sur un documentaire sans réelle réponse. Donc, ok, on arrive à mettre les pièces les unes sur les autres, le problème c'est qu'on n'aura jamais aucune réponse. Mais c'est absolument fascinant. Et puis bon, on voit bien que Candace Owens a très bien fait son boulot. Moi, je ne la considère absolument pas comme une complotiste. Je la considère comme quelqu'un qui cherche la vérité, qui a 2 doigts de mettre le doigt dessus. Mais il lui manque le petit élément qui ferait que ça ferait tout sauter. Moi, je voudrais lui dire bravo pour son taf, parce que je trouve que tout ce qu'elle dit est absolument cohérent. Alors, en plus, elle le dit, hein, il y a des fois, elle explique que voilà, ça peut être des incohérences, etc., que c'est pas spécialement une preuve. Moi, je trouve qu'elle a fait un boulot exceptionnel et je lui dis bravo quand même.
Make a mistake and then they sue people. Make a mistake while you're asking meaningful questions and you are going to get sued if you live in France. Worse, you could be in prison. People have been imprisoned for looking into the story, arrested for looking into the story. Xavier is correct. It is meant to drive everyone crazy, jumping through 1,000 rabbit holes. And speaking of rabbit holes, we should now discuss more thoroughly the little chubster, the little fat one, as Xavier calls him, recently presented by the media as proof that Jean Michel exists. Listen, I want to be very clear. I have no doubt in my mind that a Jean Michel exists in Amiens. It seems like that's just everyone's name. Everybody's Jean Michel. So do not color me shocked when they say, we have found a Jean Michel. I've already found about 6 of them. Now you're probably thinking, Candace, yeah, there's just too many Jean Michels in every side of this family. I'm not quite sure what to trust. Well, we at least have to try to understand who this little chubby guy is and if he is indeed the same Jean Michel that is pictured in the initial Trogneux family photo. First, just want to throw to some of our sponsors. Jacked Up Fitness is one of them. With RFK Jr.'s historic confirmation, the Make America Healthy Again movement is finally here. That's why I am so excited to tell you one, the little chubster, okay?
Allez.
Now, it's important that I keep reminding you that the public is being gaslit in a manner that would make even Sigmund Freud blush. He was the father of gaslighting, okay? Gaslit little kids. We'll get into that another day. It is so easy to simply present photos of the current First Lady throughout the 80s, or photos of her with her brother, Jean Michel, at any point throughout her entire life. Okay, it's so easy. Don't let the media gaslight you and pretend this is crazy. It is the exact opposite. They are being crazy. by not just putting all of this to rest. Even if her very active and photographed teaching years, even if she found some throughout her very active and photographed teaching years of her and Jean Michel together, I'd be like, okay, cool. There is only one massive family reunion photo that I could find since that family photo that was taken in the 1950s in Amiens. And this photo was actually published in 1991 in a German magazine, and I'm going to show it to you. Now, you can see on the right there, we have got Brigitte. Now, Brigitte
elle est à droite, hein, vous voyez bien.
And missing from this photo is Jean Michel. There's no Jean Michel in this photo. And it was allegedly them all getting together to celebrate the 50th wedding anniversary of the father, Jean-Georges Trogneux, and his wife, Simone. So why would you not have all the siblings there that are alive? Doesn't that seem like quite the event to miss? Just be like we should very easily be able to say that the siblings are all here because you don't just miss your parents' 50th in 1991. We know that Jean Michel has never died on paper, okay? He's never died on paper. He is still alive, according to Brigitte Macron, but what he does, what he has been doing, what his career is, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We are told in one book by one journalist who found it to be very suspicious when she went out to investigate this circumstance, Emmanuel Anizan, that she was told in Amiens that he just plays cards with his friends. I guess he's just a private guy who never left Amiens. That's what we're supposed to believe. He never left Amiens after his divorce from Veronique Drew. Now he's just kind of like retired and playing cards in a cafe with his friends. Okay, nobody really knows what he's been up to. So with questions that were then reaching a fever pitch amongst the French public when they realized that for whatever reason, this brother had been sort of left out of Brigitte's story. And now they're being told that, well, him and Brigitte were so close that at his wedding, she signed, at his very private wedding to Veronique Drew, she signed on as the witness. And also at her wedding, he was the best man. People are going, what's going on here? Where is this person? Suddenly the media had to start making up some answers. And the answer that they provided was, oh, a little chubby guy. As I discussed with Xavier Poussard, we are told that this guy is...
Le gars que vous voyez derrière, là, le petit gros, là, c'est censé être Jean Michel Trogneux. Hein. Ils sont venus expliquer, regardez, Jean Michel, il était bien là et tout, sauf que c'est absolument pas lui, en fait.
Ordinarily private Jean Michel, all grown up. Now, I can tell you right off the bat, in case you're wondering, the World Economic Forum Chinese software program says no, that is not the Jean Michel that we are looking for, of a little boy in the photo. I can show you this match right here. The confidence is 54%. Now, Xavier...
Là, vous voyez en bleu. Alors, pour ceux qui n'ont pas suivi, c'est une intelligence artificielle qui s'occupe de faire les comparaisons de visages. Il faut savoir qu'elle est reconnue par le Forum économique mondial, qu'elle est utilisée par le gouvernement chinois. Donc, on est quand même sur une intelligence artificielle qui est sûre. Et donc là, on voit que à 54%, de confiance qui est très très bas, ce ne sont pas les mêmes personnes, c'est-à-dire la photo de Jean-Michel Trogneux à droite et le soi-disant Jean-Michel Trogneux vieux à gauche ne sont absolument pas les mêmes personnes.
Say that when it comes to glasses, just to be super clear with you guys, that the technology doesn't want you to use two people that are wearing glasses, or glasses in general. They do caution can sometimes shade the face in a different way. But you can see here when we're showing you this, we're talking 52% confidence on the little chubby one next to him. Anyways, it would be easier, rather than having to use technology, if the Élysée Palace just came right out and said, yes, this is actually Jean Michel Trogneux, the one you've been looking for, the same one pictured in that 1953 family photo from Amiens. It's such an easy thing to say, but that's not their thing. Clarity is not their thing. Ease is not their thing. Hush, hush, be quiet, threat, sue is their thing. So instead, just to be clear, in the initial letter that they sent me, the 100-page letter of an opportunity, really, to say to me, do not publish your series, I am telling you that this Jean Michel that you're looking for, that little boy on the left, is alive and well, and they could have just provided me photos of his missing years. they decided to squander away that opportunity by instead sending me screenshots of the little chupster at the inauguration of Emmanuel Macron. This is what they sent me. This is the exact language. What's more, Jean Michel has recently appeared in public. He attended President Macron's inauguration in 2017 and 2022. During your June 12th, 2024 appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored, you bet Piers Morgan $100,000 that he could not find a photo of Jean Michel Trogneux, implying that this would disprove your false claims. Below are publicly available images of Jean Michel Trogneux from videos of President Macron's 2017 and 2022 inauguration. You will see that not only is Jean Michel present, but also...
Le truc, c'est que le texte que vous voyez là-haut, c'est un texte qui a été envoyé à Candace Owens pour vraiment lui prouver qu'elle dit n'importe quoi et que Jean-Michel Trogneux existe vraiment et qu'on l'a vu en public. Sauf que l'intelligence artificielle, elle précise bien que ce n'est pas ce gars-là. Et que le petit gros là n'est absolument pas Jean-Michel Trogneux. Donc là, si c'est les avocats qui lui ont envoyé ça, c'est un drame absolu.
Same frame as Brigitte Macron. The conclusive evidence that you have been seeking to debunk your claims. Okay, so this is amazing. Keep that up for a second, okay? It's amazing for a lot of reasons. It's amazing that the Élysée Palace, rather than giving us a document, a passport with things blacked out, but maybe just his name, a driver's license, anything that would be a form of ID, photos of them together growing up, because this is our problem, is sending me screenshots of an inauguration with a guy in the background. Aha!
Yeah, elle a complètement raison. Depuis le départ, ils veulent pas envoyer de papier d'identité, ils veulent pas envoyer quelconque preuve sur un document que Jean-Michel Trogneux existe, parce que soi-disant ils auraient pas de compte à rendre à Candace Owens, mais ils lui envoient des screenshots d'une inauguration et d'une investiture d'un président de la République pour prouver qu'il existe bien vraiment, sachant que c'est même pas lui. Expliquez-moi pourquoi ils ont pas envoyé directement une copie du passeport ou une copie de la carte d'identité avec la tête de Jean-Michel Trogneux dessus, pourquoi ? Bah, parce qu'elle n'existe pas, tout simplement. Là, s'ils envoient des screenshots, c'est qu'ils ont envie de prouver quelque chose. Dans ces cas-là, envoyez les bons documents. C'est foutage de gueule.
It's debunked. Jean Michel exists. Like I said, 27 of them exists. I have no doubt that a Jean Michel Trogneux exists somewhere in Amiens. In fact, there's probably 20 of them. But of course, they mistook me for a fool. Okay, I've already been made wise to their game, so to speak. Names and... It's all about how you phrase the questions. It means nothing to tell me that a Jean Michel exists, but it would mean everything if they simply spelled out an answer to a basic question about who they are claiming is Jean Michel. So we went back to them with an exact question so there could have been no remaining confusion. We were clear. We will publish the truth. Here is the wording that we wrote in our letter back. Because the Macrons dispute the substance of Candace's reporting and opinions, we would like to provide them with the opportunity to present their stories and to clear up any rumors in the press. As such, we offer any date and time during the months of January, February, and...
Vu que c'est pas bien traduit, je l'écoute jusqu'au bout et je vais vous faire un petit point rapide de ce qu'elle dit.
Of 2025 for an interview between Candace and your clients. Candace, her producer, and a videographer will fly to Europe and arrange for a translator and studio in which the Macrons can answer questions. As you know, the first remedy for a defamation plaintiff is mitigation by using available opportunities to contradict the lie or correct the error and thereby to minimize its adverse impact on reputation. We are providing such an opportunity. To facilitate this interview, we offer the following questions in advance. So we gave them this opportunity weeks before we began this series to answer a specific...
Bon, c'était la réponse qui avait été envoyée à Emmanuel Macron et à l'Élysée concernant Candace Owens en disant qu'elle allait voler en Europe pour pourquoi pas avoir une interview avec Emmanuel Macron, parce que quand on vous dit que quelqu'un fait de la diffamation, prouvez qu'elle ment, c'est ce qu'elle explique, et ils ont envoyé une liste de questions en dessous qui bien sûr n'ont jamais été répondues comme tu le sais très bien.
About Jean Michel at the inauguration. And here is the question we asked. I draw your attention to number 3. Is the man you showed at President Macron's inaugurations in 2017 and 2022 the same individual pictured on the far left in the Trogneux family photograph from Amiens. Yeah, I'm awake to your game, okay? Don't tell me names. Tell me, is this the same person? And of course, you guys, we never heard back. They had the energy and the frustration to write the letter and say it's a lie. And we gave them a runway of 2 weeks to say, just give us a yes or no to this. And I promise you, okay, hand to God on my children's lives, if they had answered and said, yes, this is him, I would be reporting that information today because I'm not interested in jumping down this rabbit hole for the purpose of spinning a conspiracy theory, okay? There is something very wrong with this family.
Ça, c'est... Voilà. Et il lui envoie des photos, des screenshots en lui disant Jean Michel Trogneux, il est là. Elle pose la question, elle dit on va venir en Europe faire une interview, est-ce qu'Emmanuel Macron veut venir pour répondre à nos questions? On lui pose une simple question, est-ce que le mec qui est présenté sur les photos de l'investiture de 2017 et 2022 est Jean-Michel Trogneux? Ils sont incapables de lui répondre alors qu'ils ont tout fait pour lui envoyer une lettre pour justifier que c'était lui. Ils ne le lui ont jamais donné de réponse. D'accord? Donc elle a jamais eu aucune réponse, ils ne veulent pas répondre parce qu'ils savent très bien que s'ils répondent en mentant, ça va pas le faire. Et faut quand même savoir que Xavier Poussard n'a jamais été poursuivi en justice. Xavier Poussard a été intimidé par des contrôles fiscaux, par tout ça, mais n'a jamais été poursuivi en justice. Parce que le problème, c'est qu'il avait un dossier tellement complet qu'il aurait fallu qu'Emmanuel Macron réponde aux questions de Xavier Poussard en toute honnêteté, et Brigitte Macron également, pour que ce soit prouvé que ce soit de la diffamation. Pourquoi Xavier Poussard n'a-t-il pas été poursuivi en justice dans ce cas-là?
Perhaps the biggest thing that is wrong with this family is their refusal to answer basic questions while pretending that they're being victimized by the questions at the exact same time. It is bad faith acting. Plain and simple, bad faith acting. So with no response from them at all, suddenly them going mum on answering these very basic yes or no questions, we decided to instead turn to try to identify the guy with the inauguration footage. What is this screenshot? They gave us in their notations a YouTube link, hours of footage from the inauguration, and we decided to scrub through it. Okay, Élysée Palace legal team, we will raise to the challenge and look through this. Maybe there is this familial vibe we can pick up on. First thing that I should note is that in both of these inaugurations, the Jean Michel is not standing with the family for Macron's speeches, okay? Not at either inauguration. In the 2017 inauguration, here's a still. He is standing with a bunch of priests, okay? And when you watch the footage, the family is all walking together as they go down the line and say hi to people. And Laurent, that would be Brigitte's quote-unquote daughter, speaks to him very briefly. They're all saying hi. It's like you got to kind of walk through and say hi. The family is walking down, and he's greeted 2 kisses on the cheek by Emmanuel Macron, but he's not standing with his family. Maybe he showed up late, right? Maybe he just showed up too late, got ushered in. Okay, fine. But that can't happen twice, right? Something that's also interesting is that Jean-Claude, his alleged big brother, who he wasn't standing with or anything, was also present on this inauguration day. And yet Jean-Claude, at the luncheon which followed this speech, was seated at a table with his siblings. Jean-Claude was seated with Brigitte. Here is a photo of that luncheon, okay? Not Jean Michel, not the person they allege is Jean Michel. For whatever reason, he was not seated with his siblings. Now that's in French, the bottom, it says, this was published, by the way, in 2023. Interestingly enough, in Paris Match, and they were speaking about the Trogneux family, and they declined to mention that Jean Michel, as they're telling us now, was at this inauguration, not sitting down at this table with his relatives, not sitting down with his brother, not sitting down with Brigitte. And what it says down there is at the table of Brigitte, her brother, Jean-Claude, and loved ones. Okay, interesting. Maybe he needed some fresh air. Who knows? Maybe he didn't want to sit there. Maybe they've got a strange relationship. But let me tell you, it's going to get even stranger at the 2022 inauguration, because scrubbing through the footage, I once again recognize that Jean Michel is not standing anywhere near the family for the speech. Was he late again? I don't know, my friends. I'm going to show you this because even more awkward is the fact that when Emmanuel finishes his speech and does the walk, he goes over to the family section. Here he is. And he makes a concerted effort to kiss and hug everyone alongside Brigitte. You'll see Brigitte just a pace behind him, intentionally pausing to kiss and hug all the family members. You can see them. They start leaning in. They come out. Look at, mwah, love you. Oh, let's take our time here. Tefan looking so proud. Now he's not walking with anyone but Brigitte. I'm not exactly sure who that guy is, but what we're seeing here are nephews, cousins. We're able to confirm who all of these people are. This is clearly the family section. And once again, I want to be clear, it's both sides of the family that are standing in this section. It's not just the Macrons. It is also obviously Brigitte's family. And you're going to see that. I'm just going to let this play because it's important for you to recognize the differences here. This, by the way, in case you want to look this up yourself, is at the 43-minute mark of the inauguration. He starts going through his family. Now you're seeing Laurent, another child of Brigitte, okay, kissing her kids.
And
now behind you have who was supposed to be his mother, biological mother, Dr. Frances Nogue, who spends her time helping transgendered individuals get new IDs. This is the family section, okay? There is no question. The person they allege is Jean Michel, for whatever reason, once again, does not want to stand with his family, okay? You fast forward. So that, again, is the 43-minute mark. Then you have to fast forward all the way up to the 51-minute mark to see him finally approaching Jean Michel. And a couple of things I'm going to point out to you. Now, this is the screenshot where the legal team had the audacity to say, in the same frame, he's in the same photo as his sister Brigitte. What they left out was that Brigitte completely ignores him. I mean, completely does not say a word to the individual that is supposed to be her brother. Let's watch this together and watch how awkward Emmanuel Macron is with this individual. So you are seeing this, if you're on audio, that's her brother. That's supposed to be Jean Michel, okay? They won't answer that for sure, but that's supposed to be who they're trying to make us believe is her brother. Nothing said. Emmanuel, Brigitte just completely, oh, there's the frame where they're trying to like, oh, she's right there with her brother. Says not a word, okay? You can go back and watch this and I'll make this up. Look, it just walks right by. Who would do this to their brother on Inauguration Day? Emmanuel Macron now. I feel like if I was in the presence of my brother-in-law, I'd like feel like I must go up to him first, right? I better go up to him first. And then Emmanuel's like, oh, okay, I have to say something. A little friendly, goodbye, and that's it. Okay, now let's pause that frame. Who's he standing with? Let's back up a little bit if you can, Mark. See that guy in the background? You want to know who he's standing with? David Rothschild. Jean Michel was standing with David Rothschild. Well, I'm truly amazed by this. Because Jean Michel didn't have a career in banking. Jean Michel may have had a career in baking, but not banking, right? He's supposed to be from the family of chocolatiers. He's never left Amiens. We can't find any evidence of him having left Amiens. So what's he doing? What's his relation to David Rothschild? Why is he standing there? And please, just make sense of it. Again, I'm...
Ah, je vous jure, ça me fait rire parce que c'est un bordel. C'est un bordel. L'autre, la Brigitte, elle calcule même pas son soi-disant frère qui traîne dans la troupe alors qu'ils font la bise à tout le monde. Donc clairement, on a compris que le gars, limite, ils savent même pas qui c'est. Et le mec, en fait, c'est un pâtissier et il se retrouve au milieu des Rothschild. C'est... En fait, t'as l'impression d'ouvrir un puzzle de 5000 pièces que t'arrives jamais à terminer. C'est un truc de fou.
I'm just a regular old person. I got nothing but street smarts. But I gotta tell you, my entire family is all the way down there. And I've decided not to sit with them, not to stand with them, but to be by myself with security and David Rothschild. Ladies and gentlemen, what the hell is going on? What's going on? Do you feel convinced that's a family member? Nope. Brigitte, once again, doesn't want Jean Michel at her table. They were so close when she got married to Andre Louis. Please, I need you to be the best man. So close when he got married to Veronique Drew. It must have been a massive family falling out that makes it so that even when he's at the inauguration, he doesn't stand with the family. Like, it just must have been an absolute disaster of a family falling out. And again, what do the Rothschilds have to do with Amiens? I just find this to be an incredible theme here. So what does this all mean? What does this all mean? Well, what it means is that, unfortunately, guys, I can't answer these questions for you, and neither at this moment can Xavier Poussard. But what it means is that for the first time, rather than the entire world being told by the mainstream media, being gaslit by the mainstream media to believe that there was nothing here, and Candace was having postpartum psychosis by looking into this story, now millions and millions of people worldwide are going to look into this story. Millions have watched this series. Millions are emailing.
Ouais, et c'est là le point où je voulais en venir pour tous les gens qui disent qu'aujourd'hui Candace Owens n'a apporté aucune preuve et que nous ne faisons pas avancer les choses, et vous vous gourrez à 10 000%, parce que Candace Owens vient d'ouvrir une boîte de Pandore qui ne va pas se refermer de sitôt, croyez-moi, parce que jusqu'à l'heure d'aujourd'hui, nous avions quelques journalistes indépendants en France qui s'amusaient à analyser, à enquêter sur le passé de Brigitte Macron, sur le fait qu'elle pourrait être un homme ou non. Et ces gens-là étaient intimidés. Une s'est suicidée ou a été retrouvée morte. Vous ferez votre propre opinion et vous irez chercher vos propres informations sur cette histoire, Madame Ferreira. Mais aujourd'hui, Candace Owens, qui est clairement intouchable, car elle est aux États-Unis, a ouvert la voie à tous les journalistes indépendants du monde entier d'enquêter sur la vie de Brigitte Macron et d'Emmanuel Macron, et de pourquoi pas aller trouver des informations complémentaires qui risquent de mettre l'intégralité de la vie des Macron clairement en péril. Parce que à une époque où seulement des journalistes français s'intéressaient à cette affaire, se retrouvaient intimidés, menacés, devaient partir, recevaient des condamnations en justice, aujourd'hui Emmanuel Macron, il est niqué. Parce que maintenant, les journalistes du monde entier vont s'intéresser à ce cas-là, et ça risque de faire un bruit énorme grâce à Candace Owens.
Millions are investigating, and someone somewhere knows something. Someone somewhere saw something. Someone somewhere may be able to find a photo of Jean Michel Noguès in the archives of the medical centers that he worked at throughout his illustrious career. Someone somewhere maybe recognizes which Jean Michel that is, okay? Someone somewhere perhaps knows the answer to the mystery of what happened to Brigitte Trogneux. Where is Brigitte Trogneux? Was Brigitte Trogneux given a different name? Did Brigitte Trogneux die young after having children? I don't know the answers to these questions. It's taken Xavier Poussard, and people like Natasha Ray, almost a decade of their lives to get us to this point. Many of them giving up their freedoms. Natasha Ray has been in and out with a cancer diagnosis, being tortured by the Trogneux mafia, as I would describe it, because they act like a mafia when you start prying into this. We will legally abuse you if you start asking these questions, because that's what we'd rather do than answer anything. They have given up a decade of their lives to researching this, and now we have the ability to crack this wide open. And so if you have information about this family, maybe you're somebody sitting in Algeria and you're going, yeah, no, I remember him. Yeah, what goes on in Algeria at this time? Maybe you went to school with Jean Michel Trogneux. Maybe you are in the French military and you see something strange about access to his files, because there is a file. There is a military file that is being locked down as it pertains to Jean Michel Trogneux. Again, something that is supposed to be made available to the public that they won't make available. And they just want to gaslight us about that. He's just so private. So private, but he does go to the inauguration, but so private he doesn't want to stand with the family or be involved with them. He'd rather stand with David de Rothschild. Help me out, guys. If you have information, please send it to info@candaceowens.com. It is my instinct. Yes, I agree with those of you that are commenting right now that we are looking potentially at incest. That is what in my gut feels. It has to be a secret so big that it would make them react in this way, because it is a type of violence to treat journalists like this. It is a kind of emotional violence to do these sorts of things, and they do it as though they know that advice is nice, but incest is best, and things should be kept within the family. Anyways, you guys, before I get into answering some of your questions, I want to remind you about our last sponsor, Nimi Skincare.
Ok, donc comme d'hab sur la fin des épisodes de Candace, on est sur les sponsors et la réponse aux questions. Donc on va passer ce chapitre, si ça vous intéresse, vous allez sur YouTube et vous allez voir. Sinon moi j'aurai une vidéo qui va durer 4 heures, ça n'a aucun sens. Donc voici qui conclut aujourd'hui la série Becoming Brigitte avec Candace Owens, qui aura fait un travail absolument exceptionnel, honnêtement, avec l'aide de Xavier Poussard. N'oublions pas Natacha Ray, qui est à l'origine de tout ça, qui a été la seule, avec Amandine Roy à l'époque, quand ils avaient fait une vidéo YouTube, à être condamnée. Aujourd'hui, pour moi, les choses sont claires. Je pense que Candace Owens n'est pas une complotiste. Je pense que Candace Owens a bon sur toute la ligne. Elle ne peut pas répondre à des questions qui aujourd'hui n'ont aucune réponse. Elle a ouvert une boîte qui fait que peut-être dans les semaines à venir et dans les mois à venir, nous allons avoir des gens qui vont apporter des informations supplémentaires après avoir vu cette série. Est-ce que Brigitte Macron est le père d'Emmanuel Macron? Pourquoi pas, on n'en sait rien. Encore une fois, c'est une pièce du puzzle que nous ne pouvons placer nulle part. En tout cas, ce qui est sûr, c'est que toutes les coïncidences et les incohérences ne peuvent pas être le fruit d'un accident quand on voit l'intégralité de cette série, que je pense que les choses ne sont pas terminées. Est-ce que nous aurons une réponse totalement factuel un jour? Je ne pense pas, vu que toutes les archives ont été détruites, que les photos d'enfance des uns et des autres ont toutes disparu. Mais de toute manière, une chose est sûre, et il n'y a même pas besoin d'analyser en profondeur et de faire les Einstein pour savoir qu'il y a un malaise derrière, c'est que les avocats et la famille Macron ne veulent pas répondre aux questions pourtant très simples de Candace Owens, et ça, c'est une preuve de culpabilité totale. Parce que si cette série leur a fait peur autant que ce que Candace nous le dit, avec toutes les cyberattaques qui ont eu lieu, les lettres de menaces qu'elle nous a montrées, mais juste en répondant à certaines questions, ils auraient mis fin à cette série en 2 temps, 3 mouvements, et ça aurait évité un emballement mondial autour de cette affaire qui est loin d'être terminée, je le pense. Et ça nous prouve, en n'ayant pas répondu à ces questions-là, que du côté des Macron, on a énormément de choses à se reprocher. Et croyez-moi que beaucoup de gens vont continuer à en parler, que ce soit sur YouTube, que ce soit sur TikTok, Instagram et compagnie, et qu'ils vont vivre des moments très compliqués. Alors, ça aura été un grand plaisir de vous partager ça dans le début de ma chaîne YouTube. N'hésitez pas à vous abonner, à lâcher un pouce bleu. Je vais vous diffuser également demain matin l'interview, la partie 2 de l'interview de Xavier Poussard qui avait eu lieu juste avant cet épisode. Et ça en sera tout pour donc le chapitre Candace Owens, jusqu'à ce qu'il y ait bien sûr du nouveau. Si Candace Owens revient avec de nouveaux éléments, vous ne vous inquiétez pas, je referai une vidéo. Mais sur cette chaîne YouTube, je vais vous partager ce qui se passe aujourd'hui également dans le conflit mondial avec la Russie et l'Ukraine et les Américains avec les négociations, etc. On va parler sur des formats longs de tout ce qui se passe dans le monde. Donc si tu es intéressé, tu t'abonnes, n'hésite pas à liker, à commenter, à partager, on fait marcher l'algorithme. Sur ce, je vous souhaite à tous une bonne journée et on se retrouve dans le prochain épisode. Ma salama.